welcome to the November 3rd meeting of the Millis School Committee. My name is Carrie Roach. I'm your current chair. I'll start off by taking roll. Robin Briggs.
Here.
Stephen Catalano.
Here.
Mark Conroy.
Here.
Denise Gibbons.
Here.
Superintendent.
Here.
And we have no teacher or student reps. And I always forget to tell people that this is being recorded and can be viewed on YouTube. So we will start with our action items. We'll go to consideration to approve the 10/27 school committee meeting minutes.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Gibbons.
I make a motion to approve the 10/27 school committee meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're going to move right into our superintendent's report. Hand it over to you. Thank you, Nancy.
So this time of year, typically we're doing a district improvement plan. This year being unusual, the normal process would have been that we would have spent a lot of time this summer developing a full document. We've used the same format for the past few years, and it's about a 20-page document. And then when we took a look at it, we realized that many of the action steps on there are things that have become just the way we do things around here. For example, doing the formative assessment through STAR assessments to see where kids are in reading and math, and analyzing the data and doing tiers of support and intervention, or our social emotional learning screenings, and using that data to make sure we have tiers of support for students. So they really aren't improvement goals anymore. They're just the way we do things around here. And with the transition to Mr. Mullaney as superintendent and the lack of summer time to take a look at that document, we decided to simplify and target our goals for the year. And in some ways, it goes along with one of our favorite educational thinkers, Doug Reeves, who says, if you have more than 3 or 4 goals, it's like having none at all. So our district improvement plan this year is very focused, and many of the things that we'll still be doing, many of the action steps that were listed in our previous plans, but it's going to be quite focused this year. Obviously, what we developed over the summer and in the fall, submitted to the Department of Education, were the 3 models of how we would educate students in Millis in person, or a hybrid model like we're in now, or fully remote. And so we started the year with a month of fully remote e-learning. So the ability to flex between those is very important. Our mission, as always, is not just to educate students so that they become independent lifelong learners, but leaders also who will contribute to a changing and complex society. That is true more than ever. Very complex world out there today, and we want our kids to develop those leadership skills. Millis is a leader as a district. For the first time, we broke the rank of 30 in the Best of Boston Magazine rankings that take into account various factors. And Millis High School is to be commended for that. We still are ranked in the top 6% nationwide by U.S. News and World Report, and we ranked 5th in all of Massachusetts for our less economically privileged students. We're the 5th highest ranked district of how our economically less privileged students did on MCAS in the 10th grade, and that's something we're very proud of. Last year, as you know, we were invited to be one of 3 districts invited into the Nationwide League of Innovative Schools. Obviously, that's become a virtual experience this year, but it was a powerful site visit to some very progressive districts in the Washington, D.C. area last year, so we're hopeful for that in the future. We will be having this year coming out soon, maybe in a couple months, a bright spot profile, which is a report of how Millis has gotten to be one of the preeminent districts in Massachusetts for personalizing learning, and that's through the MAPLE Consortium. And we've been a catalyst district, one of the initial districts in MAPLE, and they are spotlighting, I think, four or 5 districts, and Millis, our report will be out soon. Looking forward to that. We, of course, continue to do integrate engineering throughout the elementary level through what's called novel engineering, or integrating it with our literacy program. The Global and STEAM Scholars that have gotten rolling, our arts and TV production programs get awards. We are demonstration district for Tools of the Mind, one of a few nationwide. Of course, our immersion program has long been one that people come to visit, and now our FLES program, where we have foreign language Spanish for all students starting in kindergarten. Our athletic programs always are very strong. We require community service of 100% of our students, and through their senior projects, they do more of a community focus as well, and a lot of strong extracurriculars. So we're getting started in being able to offer some of those extracurriculars again this year. We also have a very strong social emotional support with the screenings that we do to make sure we're identifying kids who are at risk. And the focus, as always, is on personalizing learning, taking kids from where they are to as far as they can go, and with a real-world focus for those development of 21st century skills. The League of Innovative Schools is nationwide, and it, according to their mission, it connects the most forward-thinking leaders of the nation's school districts by working together on shared priorities. As you know, this is the MAPLE graphic of what we focus on in order to personalize learning. We've always had a great, strong technology integration component using technology. The personal connections our teachers make with students is very strong and builds a great foundation. And then we had been working on providing a lot of flexible learning environments with project-based learning and different seating and standing tables and flexible tables, etc. All that has had to be kind of put in storage for a year until we can get back to having a much more flexible environment. Right now it feels kind of like when I grew up in the 50s and everybody is in rows, 6 feet apart. But it's still going really well. The kids are being great. They're following the rules. And I have to say the teachers are doing a phenomenal job. So we're not losing sight of these things. It's just a different approach to it. And now that we're settling into hybrid, we're able to be more responsive. There is collaboration going on. There's synchronous, there's asynchronous, there's kind of a flipped classroom approach in many places, starting to get back to more project-based learning and having some personalized learning pathways for kids. And I have to say, now that we're settling in, teachers are, it takes a while because they're juggling a lot. They're juggling 3 different things: the kids in front of them, the kids zooming in from home, and then the kids who are fully remote all the time. And it's a real testament to the teachers of how well it's going in Millis. And the Department of Ed is putting out a survey because there are districts in which that type of thing is not happening. And so they're trying to, they're auditing districts basically if things aren't going as well. And in Millis, I'd say we're very, very proud of what the teachers are doing. Our social emotional action plan is more important than ever, both for students and for staff. We need to attend to these areas, and our screenings are very important. The data we collect, the supports we then provide for students, but also staff. So that'll be continue to be a focus for us this year. We've decided that there are really just 3 district priorities this year. The first one, most important, first and foremost, ensure the physical and mental health to the extent possible of all staff and students. Second, to support the staff to develop effective and relevant instruction in all 3 of those models, in person, fully remote, and hybrid, and be able to flex back and forth between them if we need to. And then we'll be focusing on getting feedback on how's it going from all stakeholders and getting a handle on where kids are skill-wise. They were out of school for 7 months. And what are their skill levels academically? We'll be monitoring their engagement. We'll be monitoring their social emotional well-being, and also for staff. And we'll seek this feedback from parents as well. So of course there's a lot going on that underlies that and makes those 3 priority areas happen. Obviously we need a good budget. We've piled on top of all of our responsiveness to the pandemic, a conversion to a new financial system in Munis. So that's been a lot for our business office, and it's happening and going well now. Facilities, food service, and transportation have had to really reinvent how they do a lot of things. And then a very important piece of this has been managing those grants that we do have access to try to maximize the resources for making it happen well. And I have to say Terry Wiggin has done an amazing job with that, and the team obviously has a lot of collaboration around these areas, but it's a lot. This is quite the year. And then our process it's very important to focus on and not lose sight of what is our process, which I think has brought Millis to where it is today. We are a very collaborative, team-oriented district, and that's very important. Communication among the staff, the students, the administration, with the public, the parents, that's important. It's more important than ever, really. With the transition of leadership, we have a new elementary principal who's done a phenomenal job. And I can't imagine being new to a principalship and handling all she's handled. So Tana Django has done a really great job. The district obviously has leadership transition with Mr. Mullaney taking over later this month. And then in the high school, we will be needing to fill Mr. Mullaney's position. So that will take a lot of focus so that it's seamless. And one of the hallmarks of Millis is that because we're so team-oriented, any one person can, the team carries things. So even if I leave or Mr. Mullaney leaves the high school will still carry on because so much of how we do things and how we approach things is ingrained into the culture now. We've had to negotiate memorandum of agreement with the Teachers Association, the Millis Teachers Association, but more importantly, I think our support for staff and communication with staff around what are their concerns has been pivotal. And they've been phenomenal. They really have been. They've stepped up to the plate and done a great job. With the transition of leadership, people will be doing entry plans, so they listen to all the stakeholder groups and constituencies, and part of that will be surveying. So that's pretty much it. Our profession is very people-oriented. It's obviously something that kids, we believe all along that kids thrive when they're in school. They're doing a great job following the rules. And from all the feedback we have so far, we're ready to do some more formalized gathering of feedback. But it seems to be working for the kids. They're very happy to be back in school. So our motto this year is a quote from Stephen Hawking that is, or at least it's something that I thought captured it, that intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. And if that's pretty much what we're going to need to be doing all year long, probably. But I'm really proud to say that the staff has stepped up and done a great job. So, any questions on that?
Anyone have any questions? Thank you. That was really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Now we're going to ask Jean Noonan to come on up and give an update on Extended Day, which we're thrilled to have Jean back with us.
No?
It never works when you want it to.
Nope.
I can do it without it.
Are those your handouts?
I just have,
Oh, you just
yeah.
acting like it wants to, but it's just not coming out.
And it was so pretty.
I'm sure it was great.
We can certainly send it out to you all later.
Sure.
Sure.
Oh, there it
Must be
goes.
dead or something.
Oh, how come that came up?
Okay. What's missing?
Oh, see? See how pretty? Thanks, Dave. Well, thank you for having me. It's very good to be back. I feel very fortunate to be back working and back preparing to care for our kids during out of school time. So I just wanted to come tonight because Terry made me. No. To give you kind of a status of where we are. We've obviously been closed down for quite some time. And Terry called me a couple weeks ago and said we'd like to get started with our preschool wrap program for particularly for staff to start with. So we did that in about a week's time, got it up and running for some of these kids. And I really want to thank Brenda Kelly, who was one of our co-site coordinators for the before and after school for the school age care program. She has quite a bit of experience with this age group, the preschool age group. And because Kristen Quinzani, who had been running the program, stepped into a different position, Brenda immediately said, yeah, what can I do to help? So in about a week's time, we were able to really, she took the lead, put together some of the safety protocols we wanted to have in place and make the room so that it was very appealing to the kids and put together some activities for them to get us started and make it very welcoming. And I just wanted to start with a few of the pictures from our first week last week because that's what it's all about is the kids. And these are just a few of them doing some activities in the different areas that we've set up for them. And I wanted to share those with you. So we started on Monday, October 26th. We're in school Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and we've got abridged hours to start 7:30 to 3:30. And as I said, Brenda Kelly has started out as our site coordinator in that program, and I'm working as her aide. So it's been a wonderful experience to be back in the classroom directly with the kids. But I can tell you I am not 25 anymore. But it's so heartwarming to see the work that they're doing. And you can see one of our little friends in the background here as well. So what's been our greatest challenge? I think that it's been a similar challenge in the schools and in life in general is the social distancing. With 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, I find that to be the biggest challenge of all because a lot of what we do is teaching them some of the basic skills that you need in life. And it's interacting with their friends. It's learning how to share. It's learning how to cooperate. Some of the points or some of the specifics I've seen, you know, I had a child who fell out on the playground, and she was sad, and she was crying, and her little friend wanted to go over and help her. And what do you say? So those are some of the things that, you know, we're so glad, you know, we're encouraging those kinds of things, but let me help for right now. You know, so those are the kinds of things that are difficult. The play together is very challenging, but every situation that comes up, Brenda and I have been looking at it and say, okay, so how do we still encourage that kind of behavior, but separate? So we've been doing a lot of parallel play, a lot of individual play, where they still can share what they're doing. So we may have 2 rugs that are separate from each other, but they have similar manipulatives, and they can talk to each other about what they're building at the same time. So it's working. We're learning as we go, but it really has been rewarding to watch. So, as I said, we're reimagining the preschool wrap program. Some of the things that we're doing differently is parents are doing all the drop-off and pick-up outside to limit the access. We're separating the cubbies, so there's one in between each one. The children have assigned seats for table play. And so it's worked out well now. We've got small numbers. They actually each have their own table area with their own art supplies and craft supplies. When we grow, we've gotten some of these petitions so we can have 2 at a table. And then we have the different rug areas for different kinds of play for their choice time. This menu that's on the right, this is an actual menu that Brenda created. And it's a visual menu for them to choose what they'd like to play and when they'd like to play that. And it is so fun to watch them when they finish with one thing, go directly to the menu and say, now I want to do this. And so each one is in a different area so we can spread them out. I don't know if I put anything in about lunch and snack time. This is another one of our little buddies who has expressed a huge interest in everything science and weather related. So Brenda came in one morning, he talks about tornadoes constantly, tornadoes and all kinds of weather. And so she brought these bottles in and we did some food coloring mixtures and glitter and all that and watched to see what, he sat with us for 45 minutes and kept having ongoing discussion with his friends about why it's changing color, why things are moving around. So you watch what they want to do and make it happen. One of our most enjoyable times is during snack and lunch times when we can take our masks off, and they almost automatically discover their buddies when we all have our masks off and you can see smiles and we're all separate, and the conversation that goes on is almost like college friends who get together once a month, every month, and talk about everything. It's really enjoyable. So I know they are still building those friendships and those relationships and sharing with each other. Probably more than you want to know about this, but it really, it's, to be there is very enjoyable. We've been getting outside every day that the weather permits. When we can't get outside, what we've done is we've gone across the hall to the space that was typically our office area, and we've been able to play some children's dance videos and games like that they've really loved to do because it's a change of space, so they are seeing something else, and we're getting them moving around a lot. One of the things that they started doing in terms of parallel play is when we have a quiet time after lunch, they've been on separate mat areas and reg areas, and one will start doing a yoga pose. And so they're challenging each other to do the different yoga poses. Really fun. It really is. I tried to get a video of it, but, and I put this graphic in here because this is one of the websites that I follow quite often. It's called The Genius of Play. And it talks about the importance of play in this age group and developing the kind of skills that they need to develop at this age. And so I wanted to make sure that I put that in there because it's more important than ever right now that we give the kids those kinds of opportunities. Okay, so what's coming next, or what we hope to do next? We would love to, after the Thanksgiving break, expand the preschool wrap program so that we have up to 8 children at a time. We did, before everything, the bottom fell out, we had just done an enrollment for our preschool wrap program. So what I'd love to do is start by contacting those folks as far as space is available and say, are you still interested, and really expand it for those kids. In addition, we'd expand our hours back to 7 to 4:30 because for many of our working families, they need that extra time. 3:30 is not going to do it for them. One thing I'm wondering about is where Wednesday is fully remote, could we consider having some of our preschool kids in the building? Or I wasn't sure if that defeats the purpose, but it's something that I'm thinking about if we could serve some of those. And obviously to do that, I'd love to recall some of our staff who are still standing by and are on furlough. After that, proposed phase 3 would be to start adding back in our before and after school program. I think the timeline for that would be after December break. Again, we're starting really from scratch. We have no staff. We need to reimagine what that's going to look like. We need to do an enrollment, find out what the interest is. You know, I've been following what my colleagues are doing in some of the other districts, and I'm seeing the interest has dropped quite a bit because people are doing their education in different ways. Families still have somebody home working, so they might not want to do that. So I think it would start by surveying parents and sending out an enrollment form, seeing what kind of interest we have. And that's going to drive everything else. I think we would need to determine tuition, and we may talk a little bit more about that later. Confirm the space that we'll be using. Determine maximum and minimum number of children so that we can distance appropriately. Determine how to prioritize enrollment. If, being optimistic, maybe we will get many more than we think we can accommodate, so we would want to prioritize. And then advertise for staffing and hire based on those enrollments. Once we have our staff in place, we need to train and retrain. Some of the new COVID safety requirements, we want to make sure that they're familiar with that. It's going to be reimagined just as the preschool is, so we'll need to train what is a before school going to look like, what kinds of activities are we going to do, what kinds of interactions between the kids, and same for after school. And a lot of this needs to be done really simultaneously, because I think as a parent, if I'm signing my child up for after school, I want to know what I'm signing them up for, because it's not going to be the same thing as it was. So it sort of all has to be done at once. Some of the obvious changes that we'll need to document or procedures are what's drop-off and pickup going to look like, what's dismissal from school going to look like, so that we're not interfering with all the hard work and procedures they've already got in place. So we're going to be moving children around differently. And then in terms of activities, which is the crux of what's going on, we need to reimagine what those are going to be. And I found a wonderful website that I've been tapping into quite a bit for some ideas. That's this Asphalt Green, which is meant to be a way to organize recess in terms of social distancing, but a lot of those activities can carry over into before and after school. And then we'll obviously need to build craft activity boxes, all that for individual kids, just like we did in preschool. And then down the road, when this gets all perfect, and I didn't have a time frame for that, I think we'll need to start considering again, can we help on early release days? Can we offer February and vacation? Can we offer a summer program? I'm hoping. So that will be after that all happens. So the big question mark that me and many of
Which is why I'm sitting
the other
here.
districts are dealing with is most of our programs are self-supporting. They're meant to be self-supporting with lower numbers. I mean, we were already, prior to when I came in here, we were already not breaking even, that's the nice way to put it, for a number of years. And so now with lower enrollments, it becomes an even bigger challenge. So I think tuition has to be considered. How do we make it happen? I think families need us, maybe not as many right at this moment, but as we grow and things get back to whatever it's going to look like, more will go back to work in their offices, and they will need that kind of care. Not to mention that we offer so much socially to these kids and really give them so much time to play and learn from each other. So
So just to talk a little bit about fees, there's really kind of, sort of, well, I guess in a sense there's three, okay? There's one, there's the preschool wrap. Now, right now, we're charging what we were charging last year, which is $6.25 an hour.
How many kids are in that program right now?
Currently, we have
Four.
Okay.
Is
All
that
staff-
what you think it will be? Will that number go up?
Well, that's why we want to expand it after Thanksgiving.
No,
We
but I'm
want-
saying hold on one second, for the staff. Do you
For the
think-
staff, yes, we've done a repeated invitation. Gina's actually reached out personally to some staff members who originally were interested. Because of the delay in starting it, they had made other arrangements. So at the moment, we believe there's 4 staff members, which is why we believe we have capacity.
To
Uh,
8,
Say what?
to 8.
To 8.
To 8 at any given, excuse me,
Yeah, go
sorry.
ahead, explain.
To 8 at any given time, so we may actually serve 15, but some of them come to us in the early part of the day and then go to preschool, and then some of them come to us in the afternoon.
So that was gonna be my question. You think in the current facilities where you're at,
Yep.
you can serve 8 only,
We-
at one time?
8 at one time. And so the challenge we have in terms of space with that is we still have 7 to 9, where we could have double the group. We have 11:30 to 12:30, that midday when preschool is actually at lunch, so we would have both groups, and then 3 to 4:30. But I've thought that through, and we can set up the space that I use right now in our office area, where we have a couple of other tables, and a counter area where we can accommodate, so say we have 12 instead of the 8. 4 of them can come over with more staff to the other area, and we can swap our lunch and play during that time, during the midday time, and then before and after, if it's a little bit over the 8, we won't have more than 8 in one room. But we have space to do
And the other room would
it.
be 4 only? You think you could only get 4 in the second room?
Maybe up to 6, but,
Yeah.
Well, I'm
but
not looking for you to increase, I'm just saying, what are you comfortable with? You think
4.
4 is?
I'm comfortable with 4,
So potentially 12 at one time,
correct.
between 2 rooms. And if you went to the second room with the 4, you would absolutely need to bring in another person. So can
Correct.
2 people handle 8?
Yes,
And if you went to 12, you would have to bring at least one more
at
person.
least one more. And I say yes with, you heard a little hesitation. It also
did.
depends on the needs of the children.
Sure.
Right now, the level that the kids are at that we have right now, many of them are very self-sufficient. They're really independent, and you don't always have that. So you may have somebody who needs more individualized attention. So maybe it would take 3 for those 8, I don't know, until I know who my population is.
Okay.
This is all preschool we're talking about still.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
We have 1 kindergartner, right?
No, they decided
No,
not
they
to.
decided not to come, okay.
We offered it to the half-day kindergarten as well, and he decided no.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep, that's fine. That's why you're here and I'm not talking about it.
There you go.
So you said you're going to send out a survey to see what how many people are interested for an
The before and after school?
Yeah.
I think what I'd like to do is prepare an enrollment form and show them what we have to offer and send that out and see what we get back and let them know, if we don't have enough to operate, we won't, but this is our hope.
for after Christmas vacation.
Starting after Christmas, but I think this would need to go out by the middle
sure
of
you have to
November
plan,
at
yeah.
the latest, so in a week or two, and give them a week or two to get it back, because then if it's a go, that'll only give us about 3 weeks to get staff in, train them.
And frankly, to make, obviously, right now, we're working on the assumption that we're going to charge the existing rates. But for me to make a rate proposal to you for before and after school, I kind of need to see what the population
Sure.
might be.
Yep, makes sense.
So in your letter,
Yep,
I would be very careful on 2 different fronts. One, on tuition is yet to be determined.
Yeah.
yes,
Our attempt, it will not be lower than what it was last year, our
Right.
attempt to keep it, but give yourself plenty of wiggle room. And then 2, just on, and I think people understand it, but just to be clear that it could be shut down, even if you come in, it could be shut down at any moment's notice.
Right.
And that these are just plans, and something
Right.
could change in the next 3 weeks. We saw an announcement yesterday
Right.
from the governor, so I want to move in the right direction.
no, I
But I
agree.
also don't want to give parents kind of this false hope
I
that
know.
it's an automatic.
And that's also, to be frank, that's a challenge with staffing as well. If that's your full-time job and it can be shut down at a moment's notice. I think,
No
You
one
know.
wants that, and we understand that, but I think
Exactly,
we have
but-
to be fair to people that we level their expectations from the
Agreed.
beginning.
Agreed, and I think even in expanding the preschool wrap program, I think that we need to be clear up front to, when we bring the public into that, that it's for the days that they're hybrid days. It's the other half of their hybrid days, so that if, more positively, if we ever went fully in person again, we would have to renegotiate at that point. We would not be able to accommodate everybody all at once.
So Terry, I suspect that you have probably run some back-of-the-napkin numbers,
I have.
and I know you need to get we have to figure out what people want. What's your thought on, if we were gonna start at, we wanna just make it sustainable? How much of an increase from last year to this year,
Well.
percentage-wise?
Percentage-wise, it does depend a little bit on enrollment, and Gina and I have got to talk a little about spacing, and we've been working with Dana on space, physical space, which affects that. I hate to say it because we took such a hit last year. I'd really say it's between 20 and 25%. Now, that's a lot, so I'd really want to take a look at some harder numbers before I said, oh my God, I'm going to have a 25% increase in the, extended day program. So again, that's very back of the napkin
Okay.
type numbers. But like the preschool wrap, for example, right now we're at $6.25 an hour, sort of my back of the napkin, estimates there, whether we probably ought to go to $7 an hour. And again, some of that is based on the fact that we simply can't run with the same population that we've been able to run with in the past. But I would also say that if you look at, one of the things I tend to do is look at the whole program as a big picture. Preschool wrap, before school, after school, and even, some of the programs like summer program that Gene alluded to. And so my concept with preschool wrap is I'm trying to keep it close. Okay, it's not ever going to be the moneymaker. Okay, where I'm going to be able to make up ground is in before school and after school. That's where I'm going to be able to make up my ground and make the whole program break even, and then hopefully generate a slight fund balance to go into the next year.
And vacation programs.
And vacation programs and those types of programs. So that's why I say I really need to see numbers, and actually what sort of the steps are, we sort of need to see preliminary numbers. Gene and I sort of need to then look and say, okay, what's sort of our basic staffing pattern? Okay, let's, not getting extravagant, but this is what we've got to do based on early childhood guidelines and DESI guidelines, okay, because that's what we follow. Okay, now based on that, we literally are kind of building a budget and saying, okay, based on all of those things, this is what we probably need to charge to make it work. Now, the good news is, we did set aside some grant money to help us plan for all of this. Okay, so I've got some grant money that's helping me pay for Gene right now. I've got some grant money to do initial supplies. So some of those, that's a helpful startup for us. And, that all goes into the mix. Is it gonna be a significant defrayal of cost? No, but it's an important part of it. So that's why I say, yeah, I've done the back of the napkin because I'm always doing it.
So, just for timing wise, right?
Yes,
You're gonna need to let the parents know what the rates are too, once you decide what they are, so.
which is why we'd like to move on starting this, as soon as possible.
Yeah, because if we look at because then you'd have to come back to us with tuition, we have to vote on it, that type of thing, right? So you would want to do that in the December 1st meeting?
Yeah, I'm thinking that we'd like to propose, both that, yeah, we're gonna run it, and also, a proposed tuition December 1st.
So we've gotten enough interest, here's what the cost would be, we were going to move forward.
Correct.
And then you have enough time to let the parents know, because who knows if based off of the tuition, if if their circumstances change and they don't
Correct.
send their kids.
And I think the timing is right to start asking the parents about it as well, because frankly, we're getting emails. You know, so there's been a continued interest. I
Mr.
think,
Conrad.
I don't know, maybe some of you are getting emails as well about the program.
I'm sure, yeah,
so-
yeah, people are asking.
Yeah.
Question, just to clarify, so do we also need to set tuition for the expanding the preschool?
At the moment, we're using the existing tuition. I think what I would do is on December 1st, I would come back to you with a more formal proposal on that.
So when you say after Thanksgiving, you don't mean November 30th, December 1st?
Well, the December 1st meeting, when I propose tuitions,
Right, but and that's what I'm trying to clarify, when do you think expansion of the preschool starts? Because
That's
after
after Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving
After
is-
Thanksgiving. And so what we
But after
did,
Thanksgiving is November 30th. So
right.
are you talking mid-December? Or, because we have to approve the rates you're going to charge
What-
prior to communicating an open?
yeah, what we did with the group we have now, the small group, is we used the old tuition.
Right.
But just, we wrote down in there, and we were pretty clear in there that this is subject to change and will be reevaluated. So I think what I would do with the folks that I'd love to start after Thanksgiving is tell them the same thing. The tuition is being reevaluated. This is what we have for start, but you will be notified when and if there's an increase.
And
So
in
this-
fact-
they would start at the same rate that they're
Correct.
charged
They'd
right
start-
now?
yes.
And then we'd be looking at adjusting it? Okay. That's
Correct.
what I was
Correct.
trying to clarify.
And so,
Yeah.
so for example, what I would probably do with preschool is, because you would consider something on December 1st, and if you were to change the preschool wrap program tuition on December 1st, I'd probably ask you to make it effective starting the following week. Okay? That's typically how we would do something like that.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
So when you're looking at the next phase and looking at it, I heard something that I was confused by, because I heard that there's an office. And I remember that when we toured, we said no to office space
Yeah, it's-
and all was programming. So if we're limited by 4 to that room because it's being used as an office primarily, we should really go back to what I thought, and I could be wrong, but I thought that's what we discussed when we did the tour of the building, is that we were going to use all space as much, maximize the use of space for programming and not for administrative purposes.
It's being used for programming, but it's also where I happen to keep some of the files, and we
Sure.
we
Right.
keep some of the our storage for our different activities, because we don't have a dedicated space for before and after school, so we've got to put.
So we're not losing the amount of students or children we can serve because we have an
No,
administrative
absolutely
setup?
not.
Okay.
No, and so we just keep changing the activities that we have in there. Like last year, we had second graders in there for after school, and it's based on whatever the needs of the program are at the time. So we sort of rotate them around. So obviously, if we've got the preschoolers in there this year, at some point, we won't have the second graders. So we change it as we need it. It's really been a crucial space for our programming for the kids.
Thank you.
So, but yes, I am in there too.
Yeah, it does, it's a student space that happens to house Jean's desk.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the chairman's report. So we have 2 requests from outside groups to use the gym.
Okay.
We have
I
Metro
just
West
remove this?
Basketball and the Open Gym.
Inside group.
Sorry. Yeah, they are an inside group. So I think we just wanted to just discuss in general the use of the school's facilities, either from an outside group or an internal group outside of school hours. Both Metro West and the group that is requesting the open gym have sent along some safety protocols. And it looks, I've read through most of it. It does look like, they are pretty thorough. Key things, everyone is adhering to the mask policy. These two groups just happen to be for basketball, so they're requesting gym time for groups of students to come in, and whether it's the Millis Basketball Association or the open gym to be practicing. They have a maximum of students to allow for social distancing. They're all going to adhere to the attestation. No outside people, no outside guests. Basketballs will be provided, no outside basketballs. So I don't know if we wanted to discuss one or the other. It does, I mean, I think any time that we can give activities for kids outside of school is a positive thing, as long as the safety protocols are being met, and it does look like that they have planned this out pretty well. So I'm going to open up to the committee if we want to. I guess we can take a look at the Millis Youth Basketball one first.
Madam Chair, before we do that, is there any restrictions with yesterday's discussion by the governor that impacts the amount of people we can authorize for something like this?
That's a
Madam
good
Chair.
question, but I don't believe so. Yes.
Actually, it knows, because schools are exempt, and it says right in his order that schools are exempt from that. He did reduce indoor gatherings from 25 to 10, but again, schools are exempt from that. And because we have several layers of safety protocols in place, the hand sanitizing, the face masks, the distancing, the sanitizing of the equipment, and increased air ventilation. If people are familiar with our gym, they know that there's a strong breeze and a good wind tunnel effect when we turn on our ceiling fans. So we feel that those 5 or 6 layers of,
No, but the question was about the number, so
Right.
the answer is
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Nope.
The gathering is just mainly social gathering, it doesn't have.
Just confirm it.
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Gibbons.
I had heard from an outside basketball individual, not affiliated with Millis, that the MIAA is potentially coming out with rulings this week about winter sports, or at least guidance on winter sports. And as basketball is one of those, I'm wondering, as much as I would love to be able to make a decision tonight, I'm wondering if we need to wait a bit until those come out to help us guide what our decision may or may not be in relation to using the facility for the sports. And if the state comes out and says no basketball, then I don't know if that supersedes our ability to
So I think
say-
that MIAA is different than the state coming out and saying. So I see what you're saying. Like, so, basketball is labeled a high-risk sport, so so games aren't allowed. But under the guidelines, they're allowed to practice right now. So where MIAA is high school sports, and I'm not sure I see what you're saying, but I think that if we go by the state guidelines and the state says you can play basketball, but under these restrictions, meaning you can practice, and then let our high school sports follow the rules for high school play. Does
Yeah,
that make
I guess
sense?
I'm wondering if whatever MIA comes out with, if that will adjust the state's stance on those sports.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Conroy.
So I think they dovetail, it's a little bit of an inverse relationship. So it's gonna be the state EEA or whatever initials they are. They're gonna come out with guidelines. And the latest thing is they're saying they're coming out by November 9th on what winter sports would be. The MIAA has already said they will adopt, and it's what they did with the fall. They're going to adopt whatever the state guidelines are, and they'll come up with their, game like with soccer, it was masks, no throw-ins, and whatever modifications they have to make. But I kind of look at this as the same way. I don't think whatever regulations come out are most likely not going to be more restrictive than what youth sports can currently do, which right now in Massachusetts, you can, and just because we're talking about this is both centered on basketball, you can play and have teams practice, and in fact, teams can scrimmage themselves right now in Massachusetts, indoors. Technically, masks are optional. Both of these groups are saying they're going to force kids to wear masks, and that goes with our policy that they would have to wear masks anyway. So I would, personally, I'm fine with, as long as we're following the regulations that are in place right now, I would potentially caveat this to say, as the rules change, so does your ability to do this, and.
I'm good with
and-
that.
You're right.
Yeah,
and
I'm good with that.
Good with that?
Yeah,
Can we just add it
absolutely.
we can add that to whatever communication we
Yeah.
send to them is, go ahead, but you're bound by the rules. In fact, I know we're talking about one, but in the Millis youth basketball one, they put a sentence in there that that they wouldn't scrimmage 1v1, 2v2. I actually reached out to them today because that's more restrictive than what the guidelines are, and I wanted to make sure that they were clear in and to get an understanding what they meant. And where they were going was, what they were understanding is there were regulations against games, and so what it says is games, but it's games against other organizations, not scrimmages within a team. Like, so with Metro West, they can't have, if they've got two sixth grade boys teams, can't have each of those teams playing each other, which is historically what's happened in various shared practices, et cetera. But one of the teams, you can run a scrimmage. If you've got 10 kids on the team, you can run a scrimmage 5v5 or 4v4, 3v3. So I clarified that that's what they actually meant, was that they were committing to not having games that are not allowed under the current rules. So that's just one edit to that MYBA piece.
Nancy, as far as cleaning, or is there any increased janitorial fees that we need to think
Yes.
about?
Yes, when Mr. Engler and I discussed it, he thought for each booking that an additional hour would be added for cleaning afterwards. If after we get rolling, if the full hour is not needed, then we would adjust it backwards, but he figured it wouldn't be more than an hour.
Okay. For like a full sanitation of
Yeah, the gym, the equipment, well, not the equipment, because the organizations will take care of that, but the gym and the bathrooms mostly, and then surfaces, doorknobs and things like that. So he was comfortable with adding an hour.
Okay. And I will say, again, that I read through these, and they were pretty thorough about policies on bathrooms and, making sure that they're following the policies that the school has set. And it looks like they have some pretty good protocols around all of this. Any other questions about Millis youth basketball or the open gym request?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I guess I wonder, what the DESE guidance is, I guess, for PE in the gym, during the day, and if is that what they're reflecting? The guidance that they've given us, is that the same what we're doing in the school that's come down from DESE? I'm not familiar with what the gym protocols are from DESE, so.
So I'm not sure. I guess I don't know the answer to that, Rob, but I don't know if these are from DESE. These looks like that they are following any state guidelines that have been set for youth sports, as well as our mask policy and hand sanitizing and all that kind of things, as well as the policy that we've kind of put in place where one person in the bathroom at a time. So
Sure.
I think this is more based off of the school's policy and the state's guidelines around sports. I don't know if anyone thinks differently.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
on the Millis Youth Basketball, it says, "You will wear a mask and coaches are required to be in mask at all times once inside the gym." It should read, once on property or once you're in the building. We need to clarify that. It's not once inside the gym. In fact, the high school athletes, they're required to show up at practice in their mask. We should be very consistent with that. So when they're getting out of the cars, they should have their mask on as they walk into the building.
We can send back an edit for that.
Yeah. Was that in the second paragraph?
No, it's under 4 players
Okay.
in the bottom of the page, number 1.
Just to,
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
And the open gym one says, all players and supervisors must wear masks at all times. So they're not
Yeah.
clarifying anything, so that's appropriate.
any other questions or concerns surrounding these two requests? So just a or not a clarification, but just something for the committee or anyone else any other group that is going to request space, whether it be the gym or the library or whatever. Should we, I mean, just to set expectations, do we expect when they come to request that they have protocols like this written out, and we'll kind of take one by one and make sure that everything is in line with the school's protocols, and then make that decision?
So we may want to preemptively establish, for any use of any facility, here are the 3 or 4 things, just like the mask thing. So the language is consistent. And then, so this would be boilerplate language from us. And then they could then further clarify, like the basketballs, they'll provide it. So
Sure.
we should coordinate them or connect them to our health protocols and mask policy. And then whatever that is, that becomes, if you want to use, you have to agree to this and then give us more.
Agreed. Okay. I don't know if this requires a vote, but I guess it doesn't hurt to accept their protocols.
So, I guess I'll do 2. I'll do one on this, and then since we're doing it, might as well do one, just on the general idea that we're open to the facility being used in non-school hours by outside groups. So I'll do the purpose. So, Madam Chair, I move that we approve the open gym request and the Metro West Basketball Association request for practices as presented, with the edit on the MIBA one regarding masks on premises and not just in the gym.
Second?
So move in second. Any further discussion?
If I was,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
if I was told by a 10th grader, an unnamed 10th grader, that I had to vote for the open gym, should I recuse myself, or are you comfortable with me?
I think you're okay.
I hope he's
Given.
watching.
Yeah, Madam Chair. I can't remember the last time we voted on the facility rental fees, and if that is something that we need to do. I know that we waived, I just don't know what it's effective through, so.
So it's probably, the effective is probably over.
Yes,
So
okay.
we should probably reach out to MYBA and let them know if they want to request waivers, that they probably should do that.
Yeah.
And then we can evaluate it, just
So
like
this,
we do every other
this,
time.
this is solely a vote on the ability to use the building.
Correct.
It's not securing the use of the building and the facility rental itself for dates or whatnot.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
We'll vote for this, but there are edits to be made to the
Yep, no,
the
Mark.
Millis Youth
Mark
Basketball.
spelled those out, yep.
And I think it should be, there's an extra hour, I think that should be clarified, that there's an extra hour
Right, so they.
for
they-
custodians.
Yeah, which they would just have to pay the custodial fee, which they always do.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So, Madam Chair, I
Mr.
would make a
Conroy.
motion that we authorize external organizations to request use of the Millis Public School buildings outside of school hours by making a written request to the school committee, including all safety protocols that will be followed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
The,
Mr.
Sorry.
Catalano?
that there could be additional protocols required. Did you say just the ones
I
we're
just said-
given?
No, I just said they had to give us the protocols they're going to use when we, as part of their application or request.
Okay.
Would you wanna amend it to say internal and external, or is it just for
Yeah.
external people?
Madam Chair.
It was for external, outside of school hours.
Yeah.
Or you said-
Madam Chair, so we have several clubs that would like to start happening, for example, a middle school art club. And those, even though we did bring the open gym to the committee tonight, the homework clinic after school in the middle school, the art club, those generally, we wouldn't bring to the committee, we would just review them internally and make sure they're following all the protocols.
I think that makes
Okay.
sense,
Yeah.
because those are specifically around school.
Those are school
Yeah.
related.
clubs,
School related.
Yeah.
Those are school related.
Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense.
And the open gym, we do every year have open gym, it's usually between seasons for a couple of,
And we normally
a
don't,
week.
we normally don't see that.
Right.
Right.
We
Right.
don't.
I was wondering.
I think it's because it's just, I mean,
It
it's
is.
new, and we haven't let anyone else in, and we just want to make sure that all the groups are adhering to the right protocols,
Yeah.
and, yeah, this isn't normal for us to have to vote on this.
Thank you
Yes.
for clarifying.
So we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. That's all we have on our agenda. Any old or new business? We will, go ahead.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's
I
okay.
would like to, we just got word today that the CHIP certification for the Clyde Brown Elementary School Building Project was approved. We have met all the requirements for CHIP certification, which is energy efficiency and sustainability. And that was quite a hurdle, which gained us reduction in the costs of the project. And then it was announced at the selectmen's meeting the other night that the project officially came in under budget by $3.5 million. So that is, I think, a tremendous testament to the ESBC and the hard work and the project manager and the architects and our staff, generally Terry and John, who were involved with that a lot. So it's really something to be celebrated.
That is great. Thank you. We do have an executive session this evening, so if I will take a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Briggs?
I make a motion that we move into executive session, not to return into open session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I will take a roll call vote. Robin Briggs?
Yes.
Stephen Catalano?
Yes.
Mark Conroy?
Yes.
Denise Gibbons?
Yes.
And I am a yes. We are adjourned. Thank you.